today I'm going to be doing a Battleground commentary. I've done a couple of these in the past. I think they're pretty fun to do, but I haven't done one in quite some time. And I was just doing a couple BGs trying to record some extra footage for a previous video. And this BG came out pretty well, so I thought I'd commentate over it. And keep in mind though that this is not a live Battleground. This was pre-recorded and I'm commentating it over after the BG is done. And I prefer doing it this way because I don't have to focus on the game itself. I have done a few live commentaries, especially if I live stream duels and stuff, but it does make it a lot harder because I'm trying to focus on like playing well and making sure I use every ability correctly and to max potential, while trying to put it out in words at the same time. They're like two different art forms, and then if you try to mix it in one, it can get very clustered if you're inexperienced, and I'm not very good at it yet. I like to think I'm decent. So anyways, in this one we're in Silver Shard Mines. So first thing I'm going to do is try to go for the Berserking and then Hand Glider down so I can have a damage buff while I just burn everything. But yeah, I'm going to get Berserking, run in there and just cast Scorches here and there. Pretty much, if you see my last video, I'm trying a new playstyle of spamming more Scorches than usual, and it's very RNG but very exciting and fun to do. Right here I will get a Scorch crit. So I'm going to Scorch Pyroblasts, and my next Scorch also crits, so I get 2 procs instead. So I'm going to Blazing Speed into this Priest and lock him on Shadow Tree as well and get a Deep Freeze on him. And I just do over 100k crits on him because I have the Berserking buff as well. And since he was locked out on his Shadow Tree, he could not disperse even if he wanted to. And he just got owned. His day was just over right there. And as a Fire Mage, a good thing to keep note of is frozen targets. You really have to have an eye for this type of stuff, because as a Fire Mage, frozen targets are pretty much your best friend, because you'll get guaranteed crits, which means more procs, which means more guaranteed crits, which means more damage and more bursts and more meltage. So guaranteed procs and frozen targets is where it all roots from pretty much, unless you want to spam Scorch and rely on RNG, which is fine sometimes, especially now while we're full geared. We have like 50-something% crit chance with critical mass, so half the time your fire spells are going to crit anyways. But sometimes you just want that reliant. Kind of like if you're like in a relationship, you want to be able to trust your partner and trust that you'll be able to get that fat burst out and just combust all over. And so you really just want to shatter things, and it's very important you do so, which is why I like to get a hot streak proc before I deep freeze, so I can get as many pyros as I can. And that's pretty much the basis of it. Like I said, it all roots from guaranteed crits and hot streaks. And once I do have the hot streaks, I'm going to try to freeze them more, and if I can, I'll just throw it in and try to spread a Living Bomb as well. A Living Bomb can go up to 3 targets at once. It's just like this mini dot, and it's fairly weak, but it does help with overall damage, so why not spread it? But don't focus too much on this. This is not a priority. It's much more important to get hot streaks to pump out that burst, because overall, if you look at your recount, or if you play a Fire Mage, you already know this, but overall your damage is mainly just going to come from Pyroblasts. You're not going to really kill without Pyroblasting unless they're just retarded or something like that. So you just want to generate those Pyros. If you're not generating Pyros as a Fire Mage, you will not be very effective at all, and it'll just go downhill if you're fighting decent players. So next topic, I'm actually going to talk about different ways of generating Pyros and what's better in certain situations. And you guys all know the different ways of generating Pyros. I've said this a million times in my other videos. You guys all know this. You guys aren't noobs. But pretty much now that I'm actually Scorching more, that means I'll be casting more. And in this expansion, obviously it's a lot harder to get casts off than previous expansions, which is why everything is so instant nowadays. Instants are the new, fresh thing now. It's pretty much the hip thing to do. Like every class has instant CC, instant damage, so it's very important to the core of the game mechanics. So casting can be very risky at times. It's a good thing that we're not Frost Mages, because if you actually are a Frost Mage and you have to cast this Frostbolt and you get locked, and you might actually have a chance to get global like that Shadow Priest earlier, because it's on the same tree as your Ice Block. So if you get locked on a fire spell like Scorch, it's not that big of a deal. But when I do Battlegrounds, I know I said I mess around a lot, but I still really like to do top damage, unless I'm trying to win objectives, which I sometimes do but rarely. So I really want to try to just do top damage, or maybe even top killing blows. And as a Fire Mage, it's not too hard to get top damage, honestly. As for killing blows, it can be a little harder if you have like a Shadow Priest on your team or like a Warlock that have executes, because Fire Mages don't have executes, we just have regular Pyroblasts. So if you do have good players on your team, it's rare that you'll be top killing blow, and unless you're playing really well. So you just want to worry more about just doing damage. And I don't know, damage is not the most important thing, but I just like to do it because it's fun to do. And you know, what's the game about? It's about having fun, right? So to do this big damage, like I said 100 times now, you want to generate pyros, and most of the time I like to just get the guaranteed way of using Infernal Blast and waiting 8 seconds. So you have to be really patient to play that playstyle, or just a Fire Mage in general. You do have to be patient and know how to control your character or control the momentum of the fight, so you can get the pyros when you want them or when you need them. So guaranteed is always good, but when you can free cast and when you can get those scorches off, it's actually really fun to do because it's very like anticipating. Since it's RNG, you never know if you're gonna actually get a guaranteed crit or not, which is huge because you just want that pyro as soon as possible. You just want it so bad, like your body is ready for it, but sometimes it just doesn't happen and it kind of pisses you off. It's actually funny, like sometimes like I'll have a hot streak proc and I'll be scorching and I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna scorch pyro right here, and this time it's gonna crit. This one's gonna crit, even though they're not even frozen, but I'm just like saying to myself in my head, this one's gonna crit, and it actually does crit. And I'm like, oh my god, damn! Like the more I like put energy into it, it's like Dragon Ball Z. It's like Kamehameha. The more like energy and focus I put into it, the more chance it'll crit. Or, like I like to think of it that way for some stupid reason. And it's like when it does crit, it's like so fun. It makes me so happy. And then sometimes it doesn't crit after you put all this energy into it, and you're like, aw, and you're just like really pissed. I think it's because it has this like risky factor to it, because you can be like risking time when you can just be getting guaranteed procs, that when it actually does happen, it's just really exciting. And especially for me, because I've always been doing it the guaranteed way, that when I get lucky, it just, I don't know, it just gives me this good feeling. And that's why I've just been casting Scorches more, because it's been working out for me with this high crit chance that I've been having. Sometimes you'll crit once, or you'll scorch once and it'll crit right away, and then you can just global something instantly, which is very rewarding as well. So what I just like to do is cast scorches and spam them now, especially if you have like time warp up, then you can spam it so fucking fast that it's worth to spam scorch rather than Infernal Blasting, because by the time you cast 8 you would have like millions of pyros. So it's fun to do, but it's also bad because you can get locked out. And getting yourself locked out will just put you behind on damage, especially when you're trying to generate pyros, because by the time you've gotten locked out and you're done getting out of the lockout, you could have had a pyro by using it the guaranteed way, right? So what I like to do if I'm getting trained is I just like to do it the guaranteed way instead of casting scorches. Even though you're really good at juking, say for example you can like juke a kick and try to cast a scorch, but then you can get like hodged, and we're mages, we can blink it. But by the time we juke and blink, that's like already like 3 seconds of our time. Then we'll try to cast again, and then you might get feared on it or like death coiled. There's like so many different things that could happen that it just, at some stages of the fight, it's just faster to do it the guaranteed way, even though it takes 8 seconds. So I feel like in Battlegrounds, this is what makes the difference of a good Fire Mage and a bad one, is just figuring out when it is good to do these 2 different methods. And this will just come with reference experience. This is not just going to happen after playing like a Battleground or 2. You're going to have to make a lot of mistakes, and once you make those mistakes a lot, you're going to know not to do it at that situation. But the general guideline is to just, do it the guaranteed way if you're getting trained. But yeah, I don't know, I've been having a lot of fun just doing Battlegrounds and spamming Scorches. I really did miss it. It does kind of remind me of the early mop days, because I was a noob back then. I used to cast Scorch a lot, which is not really good if you're not that geared. And it also reminds me of the Cataclysm days of spamming Scorch, because you could Shatter back then as well, but if you didn't have Shatter, you would have to spam Scorch because you didn't have Infernal Blast, which is a guaranteed crit to give you guaranteed pyros. So I do like that we have the Infernal Blast ability though, so it's not purely all RNG. And yeah, I really recommend you try this out for yourself. It's a lot of fun, and let me know how it goes.